for a pickup if we had anything left. We didn't have anything left, and I did see some existing parcels with them were given to the UPS, I think, on the 15th. So they're still giving them through. They pretty much just halted it because I believe 2 trucks got stopped, and then on top of that, they don't want the same issue as last time where nothing, was able to clear in time, and they had to bring everything back to people halfway through.
Yeah, and also I think there's a lot of confusion even with the CBP officers with regards to like if it's a single address or if it's a single recipient, because everyone has their own definition of your 321 entries, how much it should go. Because I've heard some people say that, you know what, it doesn't matter if it's going to like 15 different accounts to the same fulfillment center, but only one shipment can go to a fulfillment center in a day. And now they've, I think, implemented a system where you have to kind of the entire AC manifest goes into the system, so they can flag the shipment. If you are sending in like multiple shipments to the same address, that gets flagged into the CBP system. I believe that was rolled out last week.
Yeah, so they basically what should have happened is that they just implemented restrictions to stop people from bypassing the limit, which I assume would have been there before anyway, but I guess it wasn't. But that caused people to get confused because the rule, and I talk about this later, like the rule is Amazon is not the warehouse. So Amazon, they have their headquarters in like Seattle. Each warehouse has their own tax ID. Every shipment is consigned to a tax ID, and that tax ID has its own, that's what the ACE manifest should be going off of. It's just that people, sometimes they don't write, the broker is supposed to write the tax ID of the warehouse or write the proper, fulfillment center name. Sometimes people will just put Amazon FBA receiving, and then there's no, I don't know if the broker doesn't put the proper tax ID or something. It makes it confusing for the officers, and then they don't know that it's supposed to be that way. So they just use their discretion to cancel some. It's kind of a mess from my understanding. It should be going through. It's just that they don't, like, literally I've been talking to customs brokers and shipping companies like all week long, and even they don't know. Even they don't even know what to tell me because they don't want to take liability. They are literally like, you ask someone else, ask someone else. It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, my broker, like from since the beginning, like almost a year back, they have been of the view that the 321 limit of 800 per day is per address, not per recipient. So if one shipment is going to one address, no matter who the recipient is, that's the limit that it will be counted against. So for that, like they have had this opinion for the longest time. So that's why you used to have Stallion and like 321s going through Stallion because they would take like multiple shipments in a day. But yeah, now I've heard like it's a mess. Sorry about that, Jordan. Continue.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Welcome everybody. Ali is going to be the one that's front running this session that we have today, and the main purpose of this is just to discuss kind of the changes that are happening around the revocation of the Section 321 de minimis and what that's going to look like, assuming that it is actually going to be revoked by the end of this month. We know how this U.S. administration tends to change their mind on a dime, so it's still not set in stone that it's going to be revoked, but as it sits right now, it is set to be revoked for the end of this month, so unless something changes. And yeah, I believe Ali has some things prepared for us to discuss what that process is going to look like, what the additional costs that are going to be associated with that, and those types of things. So Ali, whenever you're ready, you can certainly take over.
Perfect. Yeah. So we'll get into it. I threw up some slides. If you see typos or anything, don't hate me. I've been running around all day. I just wanted to have something for you guys to follow along. So let me just put that up here.
And if you are sharing your screen, you just have to click on the voice chat, and then you should have an option. Oh, looks like you're good. So anybody that wants to view Ollie's stream, just click on the voice chat, and then you should see that he's live down below, and then you can click on that and you can view his screen. And of course, like as always, this is just a very informal conversation. This is an informational conversation so that everybody can get their questions answered and feel more comfortable with the processes that are changing. So if anybody has any questions along the way, always feel free to ask. Try not to interrupt if we're in the middle of something, but if you have a question, you can just pop it in the chat, or you can, like if nobody's talking in the meantime, just hop on the mic and ask the question accordingly. But yeah, Ali, you can take it away.
So just for people that want to follow along, so it will be going over the type of ways for you to ship things now that it's gone. We'll go over if you're shipping food. We'll go over placement fees and, the documents and fees, that are related to that. So I do have multiple slides for some of them. If you do have questions, just let me know as we go through, and I'll let you know if anything's going to come up in the later slides, or we'll just answer it as it is. So basically, if you've the research on when Section 321 is gone, it's pretty straightforward. There's not like a secret thing that people are going to end up doing because of this. There are some loopholes people are abusing, but those are mainly for direct to consumer, not for B2B. So essentially, now that you don't have Stallion or DYK, you have to choose between informal and formal entry. So what that means is you're not going to be able to use the partnered FBA labels from Amazon like you're used to, unless you have a separate service to bring it across the border and then ship it from there. And the good news is you don't have to make each box $800 retail value anymore. So informal and formal are what you're going to choose. We'll start off with just talking about the informal, which is type 11. So for type 11, sorry, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
You can hear me, right? Okay.
Yep.
Mike's moving around. Okay, so for informal, so one of the things that you'll note for informal as well as formal is that the value is now based off your cost of goods, which is how much you paid your distributor for it. It's not going to be based off the potential resale value on Amazon. All right, that's something I've confirmed with shipping couriers. I don't know why ShipSavvy. He came to the warehouse once we spoke. He was mentioning something about it being the retail value, but I talked to a couple other brokers and I don't know why he was saying that. So from the information I have so far, it's off cost. The cost that you pay, it includes if you pay packaging or labeling fees to the distributor, but it does not include any sort of shipping or anything like that. No shipping, no freight. Now, the way that I was talking with Abdul about essentially they consider a consignee as the recipient, aka a one tax ID. So like with Section 321, when you send to multiple Amazon warehouses, you're sending to multiple tax IDs or EINs, and that's why they're classified as different recipients, and they can take, 5 locations can get 1 box a day to those locations per day. With informal, you can send up to 2,500 USD of your value of your COGS, and that will be the same situation where it's per Amazon warehouse, per location, essentially per tax ID, right? So that stays the same. Now, in 99% of cases for informal, we're seeing that the easiest and most straightforward way is for you to use UPS or FedEx as the actual broker, because the cost of associating a customs broker with it, one, you need to call up UPS or FedEx and let them know in advance not to clear it so that you can use your own broker. But the costs of your own broker are usually not that different, and it adds more time and complexity to the shipment. So usually you'll be ending up using UPS or FedEx direct shipment from Canada to the Amazon center, and you'll be paying them their brokerage fees, which at a minimal, I believe for UPS is around 40 USD. That's their entry, to make the entry, that's their fee. And then FedEx has something similar as well. They include, I think, up to 3 HTS codes, which is the different amount of line items. And on top of that, they'll charge you for duties. And if you pay duties, they'll charge you a percentage of the duty amount as a disbursement fee, which is you paying them for paying the duties in advance while they were clearing it. Right? So those fees will roughly be like 50 to 80 USD for a shipment. as a good estimate. Even if you go to shipping carriers like FreightCom, like they don't have the easiest way of just telling you this is how you calculate your UPS brokerage fee. But if you look at the UPS, their rate schedule, and then you calculate out your 2,500 USD shipments, it comes to around, $50 to $80 USD plus your duties. If you ship with worldwide services for UPS or 3-day select, they will include the brokerage fees. FedEx also has, I believe, an international shipping method. They will include the brokerage fees in that. Usually, it'll still end up costing you more if you go with those methods. And unless you really, really need your package into FBA as quick as possible, it's still more cost efficient to just pay the brokerage fee to them without having to go through the expedited methods. So with Informal, you're paying for the shipping direct to Amazon of that box. You're paying the duties if you have any, and regardless of whether you have duties or not on your products, you're going to pay the brokerage fees. Now, with UPS especially, they will do paperless commercial invoices, which means you don't have to add anything additional to the box. The shipping label from UPS is enough that the customs officers will know, what's in there, all the commercial invoices and all that. If you are using a different carrier, they may need a commercial invoice on it, but I would recommend, if it's like at least one of the boxes for each of the clearances, you should put a commercial invoice on there. It's good practice, and it helps because no matter if it's paperless or not, someone at the border one day will just decide to pick a box, and it'll be easier for them. Like if it's easier for them to look at this one, there's more chances that it's not going to have any issues. It's just good practice. Now for informal entries, if you guys are familiar with HTS codes, that's the harmonized tax code for the U.S. products. We need to declare those on the customs invoice, commercial invoice, and usually whether you're using eShipper, FreightCom, any of those providers, you'll be letting them know, these are the items, this is their value, and this is the HTS code that we've gotten for them. And the HTS code is what determines your duty rate. So that's something that you'll need to provide. And there's different ways of getting that we'll get into after. But in addition to that, the manufacturer info, while it's not necessary in the informal entry, like the actual buying the label, it's good to have it should you ever need to show the origin, or they can, like if you put it on the commercial invoice, it's best because it just, like the questions that CBP can ask, if they're already answered, it makes their life a lot easier and it leads to less issues with your parcels, because one common theme that you will notice as you do shipping is that a lot of the issues with the CBP are completely just based on their discretion, and something might go through 9 times and then the 10th time there'll be an issue. And because technically they can ask for some documentation or they can ask for something, it doesn't mean they're going to ask for it every time. Even majority of the times they might not ask, but they can. And that kind of ruins the whole planning of, you want to make an airtight plan of how you want to ship across the border, but let's say you don't have certain documentation, you can ship 9 times out of 10, and then the 10th time, if they choose to, they can ask you for documents or something that you might not have access to. And anyways, that's informal, right? So that is mostly what you'll be doing if you're not doing a high amount of bulk shipments. And then if you are doing more bulkier shipments, you will be moving to a formal entry, which is type 1, right? Formal entry is what you need your own customs broker. So you need that's a US based customs broker, not a Canadian based one. Whenever you're importing to the USA, you got to find one in the US. We use Clear at USA. There's tons and tons of brokers. Excuse me. But basically, with a broker, you work with them to either make your commercial invoice or you submit your commercial invoice to them. They get everything prepared in terms of what they need to submit to the border, and then when you actually ship your product, they're already gonna you're gonna tell your shipping carrier that this is your customs broker, and your customs broker will communicate with the carrier. They'll get the information that they need, and they'll make sure that it goes smoothly. You want to make sure that your customs broker and all that information is already intact before you actually have the shipment picked up. If you have the shipment picked up already and then you figure things out with a customs broker, you can get hit with some really, really nasty storage fees. And, you know, brokers and especially carriers, they are relentless when it comes to storage fees. So if your stuff gets stuck in a bonded warehouse, or, you know, it just gets stuck at the border and needs to go into storage, they will charge you a ton. And, you know, we've been through that before. It's not nice. You want to make sure everything is cleared with the customs broker before you go ahead and have the shipment picked up. Okay. Formal entry, by the way, is most likely going to be LTL or pallets. So when you're shipping pallets, it makes more sense to do formal. Most shipping services will not provide you the customs brokerage if you're doing LTL. They'll use UPS and FedEx to clear your SPD, but once you switch to LTL, they want you to use your own brokerage. So all you need to do is sign on with the brokerage. They'll have you sign a power of attorney, which just lets them clear things on your behalf, and then submit your commercial invoice. They'll give you a quote on how much it's going to cost. You pay them, they clear it through, and you know your shipment gets past the border. So the freight you're still taking care of. You're buying your pallet freight direct. You're just attaching the customs broker information to it. Now, the brokerage fee is usually from what I've seen, is around 60 to 70 USD. But with a formal entry, you're going to be paying for what's called a bond. So there's two types of bonds. You need them for every formal entry. One is going to be it's a single bond, which is it's a one-time use. You buy it for that shipment only, and I believe it comes out to around $75 minimum USD. And if it's like $5 per $1,000 of value, so whatever's higher, they use that. And if you're shipping, I think more than four times a year, or you're shipping a very high value shipment, you can get a continuous bond for 1 year, which is an annual bond. That one, it just means you can keep clearing with them. You don't have to pay for that bond every time, right? So what I usually recommend is, if you're just trying out new products with formal, you know, do the single bond, see the process, get it through. And then if you're going to continuously do it, go ahead and buy an annual bond. You can switch over to an annual bond at any time. Just let your broker know. So what you're looking at with a broker is the freight cost, right? That's the shipping cost that you're paying. That's what you're going to pay your shipping company. You're going to pay the broker their fees. You're going to pay the duties on top of that. And then you're going to pay for the bond fee itself, which also gets paid to the broker. You'll supply the customs broker with a commercial invoice, or they'll help you make one. Usually you have to give them one, even if it's like an Excel sheet. You have to give them the information that includes the HTS codes, the recipient or consignee, same thing, or the importer, which in most cases is you as an Amazon seller, and the HTS codes. Manufacturer information for formals is also more necessary. We always include it on every commercial invoice, whether it's informal or formal. But for formal, definitely you should have the manufacturer info, especially if you're declaring certain countries. It makes the process a lot more smoother. They're going to ask for it later on.
Gary and Shipper stay 1 hour, and probably you guys gonna stay on.
Probably not. Because usually he like
manage your mute.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe not you, but
I am disconnecting you. Okay, you're good.
Okay. All right. Let me see, where was I? Right, okay, so back to formal. So for the commercial invoice, now a lot of times when you do informals, they'll generate their own version of a commercial invoice, and for your customs brokerage, they might give you a template PDF. You can fill that out. That'll have all the information. You can also just make your own. If you do make your own, it needs to have, so on the screen you'll see the information. That's what your commercial invoice should have at a minimum, which is the consignee, which is the receiver. So that would be Amazon. Usually, they'll have you write your information as the importer, because as a Canadian corporation, you are the importer of record because Amazon does not want to take that responsibility. So even if you're sending it to Amazon, you are the importer. You're called a non-resident importer. So you're a Canadian company that's importing into the USA. You are also the shipper in this case. So you're the shipper and the importer, but the consignee or the receiver is going to be Amazon's warehouse. Sometimes you'll write Amazon's warehouse care of your company name. Some brokers require you to do that. Some brokers will also require you to write the EIN or the tax ID. Now, technically, that is required for all commercial invoices. What most brokers do is they'll be able to find it themselves, so they just need the company name. And especially for Amazon warehouses, they already usually have a database of the EINs or the tax IDs for the fulfillment centers. So they just need to know where it's going, and then they can take care of the rest. What's that?
Sushi, do you want to manage your mute?
Oh,
Thank you.
okay. So, 1 second. Let me just fix this. Right. Okay. The other thing on the commercial invoice is the product description. That's going to be the HTS code, the actual description of the product, and the COGS that you paid. That's anything to do with the commercial invoices and brokerage fees. It's USD because we're dealing with a US custom broker. Just keep that in mind. So your COGS, if you paid in Canadian dollars, use a spot rate, convert them to USD, and the product description that you're going to use, it doesn't have to be the whole Amazon title. It can just be like the main words of the product, but it should not be so generic that it can't just be a brand name. It can't just be, just like t-shirt, right? It should be something more specific, like women's cotton t-shirt, large size, That's about as specific as you need to get. And then when you have all those, that's the main stuff that needs to be on the commercial invoice. The stuff that you should add on anyways, which is useful, is you'll put in your broker information. So there's usually it's called PAPS is what they require from the shipper. It's your broker will have a email that they use. It's usually paps@thatbrokeremail.com. That's just for the shippers to the CBP and the shippers can use that email to contact them easily. So you'll put in the broker information with that email, their phone number. It's also good practice to put in your shipping information, which is your BOL or your tracking numbers. And most of the broker generated ones or the UPS generated ones will also write duties billable to shipper, right? So that's also good to put on there because you want to make sure that you don't have anything that's billable to the receiver when you're shipping to Amazon, because Amazon will, refuse that. They will not pay for any duties like that. And with the commercial invoice, again, if you're using UPS for your informal, it's paperless, but it's always good practice to at least one of the boxes for the shipment attach to the commercial invoice. Okay. Before I get to HTS codes, is there any questions for these three?
Also, for anybody on the call that's specifically here, not for Amazon, like for eBay or other marketplaces, that's something that we'll cover at the tail end of the session. The process for eBay is going to be a lot different.
Okay. For HTS codes, now with AI, it becomes a lot easier to try to find the ones for your product. Like you can you can do your research a lot easier now. One of the things I will note is that a lot of times, if you just ask AI for an HTS code, it will not be a valid one in the broker's eyes. So if you have a broker that has some sort of estimation tool, try to validate the HTS codes you get with them so that it doesn't become a problem later on. Because a lot of times, whatever it gives you, it might not be an accurate combination of all the codes. The other thing with HTS codes is that just because one fits doesn't mean that's the only one possible for a product. So in the example I have on the right, so that's one of the classifications we do at the YYZ portal. One of our clients, he was shipping I think like a light, I think it's a lamp, or what do you call those? Yeah, I think it was a lamp. and he was debating the HTS code. So this showed him the closest, possibilities. And what you'll notice is that one of them is a 12.5% duty rate. The other one is a 3.5% rate. And if you look at the difference of the actual explanation, we asked him to confirm, obviously, but he went with the 3.5% rate because to a reasonable person, that would still suffice what he was sending in.
All right.
So just by checking the duty rates of other items or other duty rates that are related to his item, you can save on, even like 1% when you're sending in thousands of dollars of value. It makes a difference. So you want to do some research and don't just pick the first rate that you see. So that's a tip right there, just to save some money. Make sure that any HTS code that you pick obviously can still be applied to your product, but that does cover multiple different codes. So that's one of the things that brokers also kind of do. Depending on your broker, how good they are, and if you're paying them to classify the HTS codes, they will also try to find the best, lowest duty rate HTS code for you. The other one is, so for manufacturer info, obviously the best way to find it is to see if it's on the product itself. A lot of times you won't see that. You'll see a distributed by or imported by, which is not the manufacturer info. So you can do you can always contact the brand and ask them. I don't know if people want to, go that route, take that much time and see if they can get a response. The other way is just do your research on Import Genius or any of these import websites to see the companies that the brand's importing from. And if you find something, like you can either find that product or something related to that product from that brand. And by doing that, you'll have information on the factory or the company that they're importing it from. And then you can also just use, if you use AI, you should have it let you know the source of where it's getting its information, so it doesn't just hallucinate a random company. Because anything that you present, it should have some sort of connection to the product that you're sending in. A lot of times, realistically, we do have products that it's like near impossible to find out their actual factory in China, but with proper AI and validation searches, we can come up with the best result, and we haven't had any problems since. But if it was obvious to find, everyone will be able to find it, basically. So that's what we've been doing, at least for the manufacturer info for products that are not obvious. And then you have products that are made in Canada, USA, and Mexico. So that's you've probably heard of the CUSMA agreement. So basically, if you provide the CUSMA certification, you can still get your zero duties on your products if they're made in North America. That only works if you supply that documentation. Usually you can just, before, you used to be able to just declare it as, at least for informals, you can just declare it as the made in Canada and you can ship it through. But a lot of times, especially now, the documentation is pretty much required. That certificate, it's something that you need to fill out. If you fill it out with UPS, they can give you a blanket certificate that will apply to all the products listed in it for, I believe, up to a year. So you don't have to do it every single time. With any other carrier, you do need to provide it every time, and you also need to attach it to the box. At least one of the boxes in the entry needs to have the CUSMA to it. This is what it looks like. This is a UPS example. So in our experience, you would be the certifier and you would be the importer. So when you're filling out this form, the main thing that you need to do is, for the producer, you're going to put in the manufacturer info that you found. It's best to do it, although you do have an option to write that's available upon request. And that's what we used to do. We haven't had any problems with it in the past, but going forward, it's just kind of common knowledge that the CBP is getting a lot more stricter and everything. So the more information you provide them, the less red flags you give them, it's better. So you're going to be putting the certifier as your information. You're the importer. You'll be putting the manufacturer information as a producer. And Then in the descriptions of goods, you're just going to be putting in the same description and the HTS code like you did before, and then you'll put in the country of origin at the end. So that country has to be Canada, USA, or Mexico. And then when you supply this document with your entry, you should get a zero duty rate. Now, to be clear, a zero duty rate, again, does not mean that there's no brokerage fees or customs fees. It just means that the duty rate that you're being charged will be zero on your products. Okay. This one is going to be a bigger thing for Amazon sellers. Basically, one of the biggest issues that people will have is that you have 5 shipment splits and you want to do one formal because you don't want to pay 5 different formals, do 5 different LTLs. It's very expensive. So the solution to this that we have so far is Pattern Middle Mile, which is a service from Pattern. If you don't know, Pattern is one of the biggest 3PLs that works with Amazon in America. They have a location in Las Vegas and they have a location in Kentucky. They basically, you send them all your shipments with a box label, an Amazon box label. And when they receive the pallets, they'll open them up, they'll scan the box label, and they will automatically put them in the trailers going to those locations. Because they have trucks going to every location all the time, so they will be putting them into those trucks, and they're charging you, I believe it's just a per cubic feet charge, that's it. No receiving, no packaging, nothing like that, just per cubic feet, they're charging you. It comes out to significantly less than an inbound placement fee. So if anyone's doing 5 shipment splits, you can do Pattern Middle Mile, and all you do is you sign up with them, connect your Amazon account, select all the FBA IDs that they're going to receive, and then they'll take it from there. Once your job is just to send the formal entry pallet over to Pattern, and then they'll split it up. One of the things that we do, so a lot of times, is that we'll make a 5 shipment split, and then we'll have leftover items that weren't able to be properly case packed for that 5 shipment split. So we can have separate shipment IDs for those, and maybe they have to pay a very small placement fee, but it's only a couple units because they're extras. And those can go on the same pallets going to Pattern because they're all going to be split up based on their FBA box label. So you can kind of put as many FBA shipments as you want on those pallets, and that'll save you a lot of money and time and just a lot of headache with the, making commercial invoices and all that kind of stuff. It's one of the things that I think it's underutilized. We're doing it now. It's a big benefit as long as it lasts. I don't know. It's a big benefit for Amazon sellers that still want to do 5 shipment splits and save on placement costs. Right? So that's Pattern Middle Mile. You can Google it. It's going to be, I think you just sign up for an account and then you can just log in with connect your Amazon account and that's it. It's pretty straightforward. When you ship to them on the formal and the commercial invoice, you put the EIN of Pattern, and that's the recipient. So for informals, I wouldn't recommend going. You can do small parcels to Pattern as well, but financially it might not make sense. But for formals, for sure, look into Pattern Middle Mile. Yeah, that's something that's going to be huge. Does anyone have any questions about Middle Mile right now?
Questions about anything else so far?
Okay. Okay, moving over to food. This is something that we're actively talking to people about and finding the best ways to do it. So basically, if you're shipping food to the USA with formal entry, you will need a DUNS number, which is a free Dun & Bradstreet number that you can get with a Canadian corporation. You will need the manufacturer info, so their address, the manufacturer name, and all that information. And on top of that, you will need their FDA food facility registration number. So there's something called an FDA product data sheet. That's what your customs broker is going to give you. They're going to ask you to fill it out, and this is the information that it asks for. If they sell products in the USA for food, they have that registration number, and usually, even if it's a bigger company, you can get it by contacting their compliance department and requesting it. Even if it's just for, quote unquote verification purposes or something, like you can get that information. We've had clients successfully get it from the companies that they were shipping with. It might take a couple of days, but if you have that, it makes the shipping food a lot easier for you, because the other way to do it is to do it with informal. Now, for informal entry, you can get away with just putting a prior notice on the box. However, especially recently, and especially if your food is not made in North America, you might get requested to fill out an FVSP form, which is it's a form that your broker will send you that basically asks you for your U.S. agent, and they need to fill it out, basically saying that, hey, your stuff is all compliant, and you know they have an ID that they have to provide as well. The problem with this is, if once they give that, if you don't have a U.S. agent, it becomes an issue. And U.S. agents, they're not cheap. Generally, they're at least a couple $100 a year minimum, and that's just to retain them. There's usually cost involved with them actually processing documents, and they also need the documents for the food so that they can do their compliance checks. So I haven't found a scenario where this has worked out for someone to do yet as a prep center, because most of the stuff we're shipping, it's just going to be products that you're getting from, you know, distributors nearby, and there's maybe like 10 different brands. So it's not something that really I've seen feasible yet, but you'll have 9 parcels with prior notice informal. They'll pass through, and then one of them will get returned or get stopped, and they'll ask you for this form to be filled out by your U.S. agent, which if you don't have, then that becomes a problem. You might have to take the shipment back. You lose on the shipping fee, and that's kind of where we're at with the food right now. If you're just getting rid of the inventory that got stuck from whatever happened with Stallion and 321, I mean, you can go ahead and make your informal with a prior notice, provide the prior notice to your shipper, and it should be okay, but there is a chance that they will ask you, especially if it's manufactured outside of the United States or Canada, and if it's not like a very, very big name brand, they can ask you for this document, and that'll kind of put you in a corner. This is just a summary of what I was saying. So if your food's made in North America, you can try the informal. If it's not, find the food facility registration ID. That's not public knowledge. It's not something searchable in a database online. There is a FDA search database. That's for medical devices. That's not for the food registrations. So that's something you need to contact the company about. If you have that, it makes it a lot easier. You can fill out the forms, and then you can ship your food over without issue with formal entry. I think this is just a graph for you to see the difference of what's happened with the Type 86 and 321 are what we've been doing, and now that those are gone, it's going to be either informal or formal. And you'll see that there's this one line that says PGA Oversight. So PGA are the partnered government agencies. There's a couple different ones of them. The most common one that you'll know is the FDA. So if your product is overseen by the FDA, which can be cosmetics or food products, they can still ship with informal, but if they require approval from the FDA to ship across, then they might need to switch to formal, or they might need some documents from you. That is where the CBP discretion comes in, because it's not going to be, unfortunately, consistent every time you're shipping. You want to ship some cosmetic products, okay, they'll go through informal entry. We've been shipping informal entry for a couple months now, and for a lot of the shipments, we haven't gotten any bill. Like, they're over $800, so it's not Section 321. We haven't gotten any bill at all from UPS as a brokerage or anything, right? That's not to say that we'll never get a bill, but it's been months, and again, it's just, there's so much going on with the borders and all the stuff that things might slip through. So it's good to have the knowledge of what it's supposed to be like, so that at least you're prepared in some extent when things actually start getting applied to you. Okay. I think that's the major stuff I wanted to cover in terms of your options now that Section 321 is gone. So middle mile, again, is one of the big things for Amazon sellers that I think will happen. Off of this, does anyone have any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
You didn't mention tariffs at all in your slides. I'm just wondering, like, let's say for a product that's made in China, what does that typically look like to ship it over?
So let me pull up a. Hold on, let me see if I can share my screen here. Just give me 1 second. So I just want to show you an example of something to look up the tariffs with. Okay, I can't even find it. Okay, I'm just going to paste the link in here. Can I share a screenshot? Sorry, guys, 1 second.
Oh, it looks like you ended your stream, Ollie. Oh, very good.
Okay, so let me just pick one here. Can you guys see this? Okay, so for tariffs, for things that are made in China, I believe the base, pretty much everything, it's like a 10% minimum, even not made in China. And the China tariffs, depending on the HTS code that they're classified with, they have like, they're getting hit with multiple, I forgot the name, multiple additional tariffs. I'm just going to show you an example. It's easier to explain. So the China tariffs that they're hitting with, basically, even if something was a 0% duty rate or a like 3% duty rate, the tariffs will apply at 20% on China, and then they have additional tariffs now for pretty much every country that also apply on top. So if you can see in this example, this product, it's like some flashlight, it's getting hit with the base duty is 3.5%. On top of that, it's getting hit with the 20% China tariff, and it's getting hit with a general global 10% tariff as well. So the actual duty rate on this product comes to around 30%. So when you go get a quote from your broker and you give them the HTS codes, they'll break down all the applicable duties. And if you go to some broker tools or some tariff tools, they give you the base level tariffs, which is like 3.5%. But you need to make sure that they're taking into account China 301s, which is like any additional tariffs that we've had with China or any other country. They need to show those as well so that you see the real amount, because these might not show on some brokerages, and then you'll go in thinking it's only 3.5%. But this 3.5% becomes 30% of a duty rate in actuality when you're shipping it out, just because it's China and it has a global 10% tariff regardless. Right, so this is just part of the duties that you're going to end up paying. And remember that this is on your cost of goods, not on the retail value you're going to sell it for on Amazon.
Okay, yeah. So in the end, it's like, if it's not made in North America, it's highly unlikely that it's profitable.
You You would be surprised. So far, everything we've shipped formal is not made in America yet. So it's
Okay.
it does depend on your margins. I would say if you go into like I think electronics or certain categories with lower duty rates and higher average selling price items with good margins, that's where you'll find more opportunities. It's still possible because you are paying the duties on your COGS, so your general margin needs to be good, but it's not like a lot of people get flushed out, but the people that will continue to find products that can still work through it, they will have an opportunity where, you know, they're not just giving up on the market because there's high duties. People are still making work. I see it every day. So I'm like just letting everyone know that there are people shipping formals with distributors with their whatever they've been buying. They are taking the hit and they're still shipping it out. So, and they're not just doing it for, you know, liquidation purposes. Like they're buying more inventory, even though they're taking a hit on their margin. Anyone else that was shipping that might just stop. So you kind of have, you know, you can make an opportunity there, but it does depend on your product. It depends on your volume. It depends on your margin price as well. It is going to be harder though, for sure.
Yeah, to mention, like, because of this process being more difficult, it is going to weed out a shit ton of people. And we can already see, like, obviously with myself, I don't sell in the US, so I can't speak from experience, but we do a lot of sourcing for the US, cross-border, and I can see on a lot of listings, margins are starting to increase because competition is falling off. And, like, a lot of cross-border, specifically Canada to US, regardless as it is, the margins can be quite high. So these additional fees that we're paying can still very much so sustain these additional costs, right? And chances are a lot of the lower margin stuff that you're going to be sending cross-border are probably going to be things that sell higher volume, going to be more so consumables, and are probably going to be manufactured in North America.
Right. I just noticed I think I was on the wrong screen, but the duties were down here. So this is like as the broker, because this one's coming direct from a broker for that HTS code. But as they update, brokers are usually the first to update. They will, you know, it's very difficult for a normal person to keep on top of every single code. So usually you'll do your due diligence by finding like, you know, these duty rate calculators, and then as you get to the actual shipping process, you want to ask your broker for a full quote, and that'll include anything additional that they need to do, any PGA requirements, which might be documents that you need to provide for any partner government agency. They'll let you know that, and if you have that information beforehand, you don't want to be in the situation where you ship your stuff and they ask you for items after you've already had the items picked up. So just keep that in mind if you're doing formals or even informals. You speak with your broker, get a broker that if they have a ticketing system, it's nice because you can kind of have that organization back and forth on each different commercial invoice. But yeah, the broker tariffs should be the most accurate that you get.
And like a side note, if you are sending a lot of stuff cross-border, if you're doing informals, it'd probably be beneficial for you to just, until you get a hang of things and start knowing what your actual costs are going to be, probably add on for, especially like Chinese-specific products, like an additional like 50% into your cost of goods, just to make sure that you cover your ass and you don't get surprised. Just like temporarily until you really, really know your costs.
So for the informal, since we cannot use Amazon's UPS label, who do you recommend we use?
So for informal, you can use brokers like FreightCom and I believe NetParcel, GuruShip. They'll all pretty much do the same thing where they will send the commercial invoice over to UPS. Some of them, like I think maybe GuruShip, if you have, you can set who's the billable person. So if you have GuruShip as the billable person, they'll pay it up front so it gets cleared, but then they also charge you a percentage of what they paid in addition to everything else just for that service. So it depends on your broker, but yeah, usually brokers, unless you're doing a ton of volume and you have a UPS account, Using a broker is good. Certain shipments, if you use a broker that shows you multiple rates, certain shipments you'll see that a FedEx shipment might do only for a couple dollars more, but that FedEx shipment might have brokerage fees included because of the type of service it is. So you can look out for things like that, and that will just save you the headache. And then there's also certain, I can't remember, I think maybe NetParcel or something. They have paid plans. I think you pay them some money a month and they give you discounted rates for all the shipments. So if you're doing enough volume, you don't have to go off of the face value of the rates. They have like significant, because you're going to be sending in bigger boxes and volume with Informal. So it's not like $20-$30 a box anymore. You're sending in like $300-$400 of shipping value. So you can, I've seen like $100-$120 off a shipment just from getting a $15 or $20 a month plan with some of the brokers.
Also, you mentioned that with the Informal, like you're allowed up to, I think, 3 HTS codes. So if we have like a box with like, let's say 15-20 items, how does that work?
So with Informal, you have, you're allowed to send in as much as you want, but UPS includes 3 to 5, I believe. I think it's FedEx is 5, UPS is 3. They include that in their brokerage fee, and then they charge you a couple bucks per line item for anything that's more than that. So if you're sending in 20 different items, and it doesn't even matter, like if you're just sending in one box, then yes. If you're sending in 10 boxes and each 10 boxes have one, like a different product in each box, it's still one clearance, so that's 10 different lines of HTS codes. So after they pass their threshold, they just charge you a couple bucks extra per code.
So it's the overall shipment, not individual boxes, right?
Yes, so it's based on the clearance. So if you're doing Informal, your clearance value, which is all your boxes in the clearance, they should be summed up to $2,500 or less of value. And that can be one box or that can be 10 boxes, but the total amount together.
And also line item is the same, right? Or is it a per box?
Yeah.
Let's say you have like 2 in 1, like 3 in 1. It's the overall. Like,
wait, what do you mean by 2 in 1, 3 in 1?
like the line item, let's say you have 10 line items and they are like spread across, let's say 15 boxes, right? So it's still considered like just those 10 line items, right?
Yes, yeah. So the line items on the commercial invoice, that's one commercial invoice covering all, let's say 10 boxes. You have one commercial invoice covering everything in those 10 boxes. You have one prior notice covering everything in those 10 boxes. Well, prior notice, it depends if you're doing formal or informal. The KUSMA, for example, like if it's American-made stuff or Canadian-made stuff, that also you only need on one box. It's always good practice. You can put them on all of them in case they want to spot check, but any box of the clearance, any one box of the clearance should have the information on them, and all the other boxes are connected to it in that same clearance in the UPS backend when the shipper submits it to them.
And for the formal, if we cannot find the facility number, is that like a dead end or?
Unfortunately, so far with our broker, yes, it is a dead end. For formal entry of food, that food facility number is like a requirement for the FDA product data sheet. So without that, they weren't able to clear. We had to wait for a couple of days. The client was able to get it from the manufacturer, and now we're going to go over and do the formal. But that was something that was blocking them, yeah.
So did you just contact them and it's like straight away ask for it, or is there?
Yes, he just sent them an email requesting it. I think his broker, it was like an international product. So I think it was made in Italy or something, and it was an international product. He spoke with the suppliers. He told them, I think he just told them straight up exactly what was going on, and they needed it, and they were able to supply them. For certain, I haven't had personal experience, so I don't want to say this for sure, but for certain big companies, your custom broker might have that information on file, and they might be able to use that. I haven't had experience with that yet, so I don't want to speak on it too much, but that's what I've heard. That you can request it from your customs broker because they have that information on file from previous just from their like existing databases of shipments.
Anybody else have any questions for Ali so far?
I have a question. I kind of DM'd you about it earlier there, Ali, but I basically have a bunch of boxes stuck at cross-border pickups now because they're not doing any more, not taking anything else over. They sent an email today. They're just like scrapping it completely for FBA shipments right now, at least. But they're going to like 7 or 8 different locations because I was trying to get a bunch of stuff over before all this stopped. So what's like my best? It was kind of like drinking from a fire hose on this like live here. I'm trying to take all the information in, but what's like my best route? Because I have a bunch of labels that I bought from Amazon, obviously, that are shipping out of like Buffalo or wherever. So what's like my best, you think, like course of action?
So I kind of missed the very first part. Were your boxes the ones that they're stuck and they're coming back? Like you're gonna have to.
Yeah. So cross-border pickups, kind of like Stallion. Like they had a bunch of trucks. Like I think 3 or 4 days straight where their trucks got denied because I think people were shipping with Stallion and cross-border or whoever else is doing like that kind of service. So their trucks kept getting denied. My stuff was fine, but obviously you're on the truck with everybody else. So they basically sent an email. I don't know if it was a mass email or just to me because I have like a bunch of stuff at their location. They're basically saying they're not taking any more FBA shipments and they're not even sending over like what's there. So everything right now I have is just stuck like at their warehouse. I had to basically go pick it all up and like figure it out. So I'm just trying to figure out, like I have like 7 different fulfillment centers, or 7 or 8, I forget the number, but yeah, I'm trying to figure out like what's my best. I'm sure there's other people who have this same situation. Like what's my best course of action for at least this shipment, and then we'll kind of figure out like the rest of it after, I guess.
So for this shipment, is it food products or just like general goods?
It's a mix. I have a little bit of food, but it's a bit of a mix. But all my labels are like based out of like the U.S. partnered labels, right?
Yeah. So for the U.S. partnered labels, we had this scenario last time Stallion had everything kind of turned around. We unfortunately once like one of the UPS labels was scanned, they're not gonna go through and do any refunds there. So we can't really make use of the UPS labels. Because they still have to cross the border and whatever, unless you're going to use a service to take it across the border and then give it to UPS again, but this time you cleared it, it's not really going to save you any money. It's just going to let them use the same code so that it's in that shipment. But what we had last time was just, we had to just extract everything out of the shipment, make a new shipment with it. It'll obviously be a discrepancy on the existing shipments. And we just had to send it over. At that time, we just had to remanifest, but now you would have to basically, if you have food, just informal that stuff over. And then if you have a bunch of other stuff, you can kind of you can put them in a formal, see if anything requires, with a customs broker, you can see if anything, might be problematic in terms of shipping formally. And if it's low quantity, maybe you have to remove it, but you can get the bulk across from there. And then if you want to use, I don't know if you were using zero replacement fees, if it was going to seven centers, you could be able to just use pattern to then let it continue to use those zero replacement fees, or then just bulk it all in one and send it direct to an Amazon FC.
Yeah, I wasn't doing the 5 split, but yeah, I'm thinking like if there's any way I can just get it across, and then like you said there was a service that could just take it across for you, or what was that about?
I mean, there are services. I don't have one off the top of my head. Like there's anyone that can clear the customs on a truck can technically take it across the border and then give it to UPS. But the cost of doing that is not going to be much better than just sending it in a new shipment direct, because you're still paying for it to ship across the border. You're still paying for the duties and tariffs, and the brokerage fee.
I'd have to eat the U.S. shipping fees that I already paid to Amazon, and then buy more shipping for the same product.
Yeah, but you're buying more shipping for the same product anyways. Even just to get it across the border, you have to buy more shipping for it. So the Amazon fees, it's like you're making use of those Amazon fees that you already paid, but it's going to be harder for you to do because you have to find someone that's going to take it across the border and give it to UPS, and then have UPS go send it over, and it's just it might be more of a nightmare, honestly, like trying to manage the logistics of that. Yeah, because the cost of the Amazon partnered part, like you still have to pay to get it across. The main concern here would be like the duties and the brokerage fees. Yeah. Also, real quick, I think Abdul, you said that some brokers take FDA prior notice. Is that for formals or for informals?
For formals, like all the shipments have done, like on formals for the food items. So initially they asked me for the food facility registration number, as you said, but I just asked them to go ahead and try inputting the FDA prior notice that I submitted along with the shipment. And once that was input in the system, so that kind of grayed out the field in their system to put in the food facility registration number. And I have like crossed like 5 or 6 formal shipments using that method, and none have been flagged yet.
Okay, I'm gonna talk to the broker because we gave them prior notice as well. I asked them specifically that, and they said that they need the FDA product data sheet filled out. So this is the other problem with brokers. Like I don't know why they have different information. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean the FDA product sheet is like I believe it's different. Like you also need to provide the FDA product code that we already built in the for the prior notice along with the manufacturer info that we are already providing in anyways. So I mean that's what my broker asked. I just put it in the email, send it over, and like I have been doing formals with them for almost like 10 months now. So like the communication has been better at least for now. But yeah, initially it was a nightmare. I completely understand what you are saying because initially they were like, "Whoa, no, we cannot take that across the border." I was like, "Man, that's just simple stuff." And yeah, sometimes it just but it now works. Like I just provide them with the FD prior notice, and the only shipment that got like manually reviewed by FDA was an item that was produced in UK. That was a food item, and like within like probably 24 or to 48 hours of the submission, that also got the may proceed message.
Has any of are all your other products made in North America?
No, yeah, almost all except for a couple that were made in UK. But for that also, like for the first time, it went through without any issues. And the second time, it was kind of like the FDA sends you a may proceed message to the customs broker, right? So that got delayed for a couple of days, but yeah, we got it finally, and the shipment was able to cross.
And did they ask you for more info, or they just took more time?
No, they just it went into a manual review for some reason, but yeah, it got it through.
Is your customs broker like are they a smaller one or they're a big company?
They are a big company, but they only work with like the carriers themselves because they're pretty cheap. And my carrier is the one who introduced me to them. So yeah, they don't work with individuals as from what I've heard from them. And then like a couple of people asked me in the group as well to refer them to the customs broker and the trucking company. But unfortunately, they're like pretty much full at this time and not taking any new clients.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Yeah, I just wanted to check because
Yeah,
it's weird, like because we clear it specifically with the prior notice is telling us that we need the food facility number regardless of prior notice, in addition to prior notice.
yeah.
And
I mean, Ali, like just a suggestion. Like, if with your volume, you would want to try Coal International. They are pretty relaxed on the requirements and everything, and they would give you a better pricing as compared to Clear It.
so we have Cold International and Carson International. The problem is they don't have a good structure. Sorry, we're just going like off topic. They don't have a good structure for our clients to have POAs for us. That's the because we're not the ones that are importing it. It's for the clients. So only reason we want to clear it right now, honestly, is because they have an amazing portal for us to like submit all the information, and then the clients also have access to the same portal that we're looking at, so that we can both communicate on the tickets like with all three of us together.
Yeah.
But with all the other ones, it's just emails. Like I've worked with Carson International for a while. It's good, but it's just all emails back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, they're like they are kind of using a team of virtual assistants who are mostly like offshore. Some of the people are based in North America, so a lot of things get lost in communication. I started working with them, and when I started with the formal entries. but my experience wasn't very good. Like sometimes it would take time for them to respond. Sometimes they would just overcomplicate things. So yeah, so that's what I was suggesting you. But yeah, obviously you have your own structure, so that might not make sense for you because I was like working as an individual with them.
Yeah, no, I mean, even like last week and this week, like I was saying, we've been talking to the brokers and stuff. So even now, we're using Clear right now because we've been clearing formals with them, and their ticketing process is simple for the clients. But we are looking for like if this is going to stick around, we do need to have a proper broker going forward. And food is luckily that one of our major clients that was doing the food, he was able to get the registration ID. But I know for a lot of the other clients that are doing smaller amounts, it's going to be harder for them. And people doing informals have gotten hit with these foreign supplier verifications. So once that happens, it gets pretty tough. I've heard 2 people from UPS already got hit with it this week.
Yeah, I mean, the worst part is like with the FDA regulations in place, you don't even need to have a registration in place for selling food items in USA. That's what the law says for FDA. But sometimes the border would go crazy with this stuff, and you just cannot fight them.
Yeah, it's just whatever they feel like on the day of.
Yeah, I know. Like I was selling a bunch of deodorants. I've like sent probably a couple of thousands in the last 6 months. And the last shipment I was sending it over across the border, it got flagged and stayed within like the hold intact message for like a week or so. Then I had to take out all those and kind of liquidate this in the Canada. But I mean, the same product was crossing the border fine for 6 times, and the 7th time they wanted to physically inspect it. And when I tried calling FDA, they were like, "We would need a lab report." I was like, "This company is registered in USA. The product is registered in USA. The listing number is issued by you guys. You guys know everything about this product. What new information would you need from me?" They were like, "The only thing is that the manufacturer or the registrant of the product is not the importer of the product and not the exporter of the product. So that's why we need all this verification." I was like, "Yeah, I'll just take it off from the shipment."
It didn't matter the other 9 times, but this time we need it for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like every time it's a new surprise.
And so, Ollie, like obviously, like this process, it's going to be very much so a learning experience for a lot of people because it's not super simplistic and straightforward. And obviously, the more that you do it, the easier it's going to get. For those people that don't want to do this as much as possible or be as hands-off as possible, for you guys handling shipments at YYZ, do you guys handle the vast majority of this process for your customers?
So right now, what we have set is we have a separate portal for basically on YYZ, you'll make an outbound of all your items you want to ship. And we have a portal that they can log in. It'll load their outbound and they can put in their COGS. They can use the AI tool to automatically find the HTS code and pick it, to find the manufacturing address and pick it. And then that will let us automatically generate the commercial invoice for them. And it'll even show them the customs brokerage and all the breakdown of all the fees that they're going to have to pay like instantaneously as they put that information in. So that part, it's still, they're doing it because we're not taking the liability of you declaring the right stuff, but it's such a simple process that it's a couple clicks and then they can pretty much get most of the information they need. And then once they say, hey, we filled out the COGS and the information, from there on, we pretty much take care of it. And then the only next thing that they need to do is the brokerage will hit them with an invoice once the shipment is being picked up, and they pay that, and it clears. That's it.
Okay, cool. And for the AI tool that you mentioned, do you also have that available to non-prep clients as well?
So I have the HTS classifier. I have that right now. The manufacturer finder, I don't have that one just public right now. I could probably, if it's useful to a lot of people, I could probably put that public as well. The HTS one right now, it'll calculate your duties off of the product. It's not including like all the brokerage fees because it depends on your brokerage too. So ours is estimating it off of ClearIt, which is the one that we're using right now. But it'll give a good enough estimate for the duty rates, which is the main thing that people need. Yeah, but right now the public one is very simple. It's like an ASIN, country, and then cost, and then it just does it off of that. So I don't know if the manufacturer is something that a lot of people would use, but if that is, I can put that up there as well.
Beautiful. And is that free and open, or is there a cost associated with that?
No, it'll be well unless there's a ton of volume because it does cost me, but it doesn't cost a lot. But like it does cost something if someone's spamming it. But yeah, like I don't. It wouldn't really be a charge, right? Right now we don't even charge for anything. Any of these like formal related stuff, we're not charging anything different than a normal shipment, just because we're also trying to figure out the best ways to do it. And then most likely it'll just end up being like a small fee just to do with the extra labor of the informal boxes, something like that. But in everything else, we're trying to make it as easy for them and us as possible. And the little like the AI tools and stuff, they have minimal cost. So that's that. I think I don't know if I shared it here as well before. But that ASIN classifier, it is there for anyone to use right now if they need to. It does take a couple seconds for it to pull the results, but it'll let you see the tariffs, the duty rates, the rough duty calculations for you to check. And then if you're thinking about buying an ASIN, you can just put it in there to have a rough idea on how much you're going to end up paying on it.
Beautiful. Do you want to share a link to that just so we can all have it?
Yeah, I just put it in the chat.
Beautiful. So it's in the voice chat for anybody that doesn't see it, and it's customs.yyzprep.ca. Beautiful. Anybody have any additional questions for Ali so far about anything to do with informal, formal entries, etc.?
Yeah, thanks for this call, Ali. I was just, can you hear me?
Your mic sounds like pretty muffled.
Is it better now?
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the call. I was just trying to pick your brain to see if you could figure out how Stallion's doing their DDP. So right now they're charging I think $1.50 or something like that for DDP, and you got to use their USPS label. So I'm assuming they're making a pretty fat margin off that. But
100%.
from what pardon me?
100% on the USPS.
Yeah, their margins are insane. But like I'm trying to see how they're doing their $1 or $2 per DDP. I assume they're doing a formal entry and consolidating multiple lines in order to leverage like economies of scale. I'm assuming a type 1. And I was just wondering how we could emulate that as an individual. Just spreading for example, if the $30, $40 per entry cost across multiple lines with multiple numbers and stuff like that, and I was HS codes and whatnot, and I was wondering how you could emulate that. This, I guess I'm not sure if this is the time to ask about that because it's kind of
that's good. So continue.
Oh no, so yeah, I was saying so like even for Amazon, FBM for example, if you were doing, you would need to utilize this rather than paying the 40 bones per shipment. So yeah, I was just wondering if I could pick your brain regarding that because I'm trying to develop a strategy around it, and yeah.
For D2C orders, the one thing, as long as you and if your freight company and your brokerage can work on time, quick enough for you to clear it and get it across consistently. I don't know like how tight the timelines are for like including handling fees and all that, because the time crunch of getting that first UPS scan becomes more important with D2C orders. But even like the way Stallion's doing it, you'll notice that there's a lot of products you can't ship them with Stallion DDP because they have PGA requirements, like even a Crayola like marker. It'll be Stallion won't allow that to be added to their DDP because they're taking essentially importer of record responsibility by doing the DDP with their broker. So they're only taking things that have no liability issue, no PGAs. Like that's why they have when you go on Stallion, you can add the product manufacturer information. They check the manufacturer ID if they have it in their database. They basically do all that pre-vetting so that they can take it over and not be worried about liability or things getting blocked in their entire shipment. And then they obviously work with a broker that they've been working with for a long time to get good charges, and definitely make money on that USPS. If you compare their rates, it's incredibly high. on the DDP shipments. But doing that, like even I wanted to do for pattern middle mile for FBA, I wanted to just compile a bunch of clients or even non-clients, like a bunch of their shipments on one formal, send it over to pattern, and just have them split it up, and then I just split the cost with everyone. But it comes down to on our end, it comes down to liability of if we're the importer of record, we have to make sure everything's going to be cleared through and fine. It can be done. It's a lot more process. If you're doing it for your own goods, if you have someone that takes it across the border and can, provide it to the USPS or UPS, basically you could just if you have a driver with a company that's paid, I think some people do this where they have someone that can go and drop it off to UPS for them or USPS. If your customs broker clears in time, you can have all that done. You can do one full entry, and a lot of companies are doing that. Even Stallion is doing that for their own Stallion Fulfillment US. They're recommending people to basically do a bulk entry, pay the duties, and get everything across at once in one entry. It lowers your cost per item quite a bit. Doing it on a personal level, depends on your volume, obviously. I know you're pushing good FBM volume, so as long as the timing can be worked out, I don't see it being a problem. It's just that if you're going to have everything figured out with HTS codes and manufacturer information and generating those commercial invoices on the fly, especially if you're doing daily runs for, let's say, FBM orders. You obviously use AI and automation to help with that stuff, but if that process is down and optimized, I see no reason why that can't be done.
Okay, cool. And it is a formal entry, and I assume there is no limit of how many how many HS codes you put in, right? I assume there might be extra cost with the broker, but it doesn't really matter as long as you're willing to pay for the extra codes, right?
Yeah, it's just that as long as the extra codes are, because every code you have to check if it has a PGA association, and if that requires any potential, for food FDA, they'll say it needs prior notice required. But for a lot of other items, like tons of random items, they'll have PGA associations that may need something. But 99% of the time, like Abdul was they don't actually ask for it. So if one or two things in that shipment they decide to ask for, it might, if you don't have those documents or you don't have those certifications or whatever they ask for, that's where issues might arise. And in that sense, it's for an FBM type of pallet going over, that's where it might get a little bit weird. That's why Stallion doesn't do any DDP with PGA requirement stuff, because they know that this potentially could have something asked about it later on, and if that happens, it becomes an issue. If your products don't have any PGA requirements, then, or even warnings from PGA, then then you can pretty much get the all clear that you're good to go and you won't have any issues. But if they do, and you're mixing them on the same pallet, it'll stop the entire shipment until that's cleared.
I have two follow-up questions. Number one, if you have a PN for any FDA regulated goods, you can have a PN mixed with other stuff on a formal entry, and that should be no problem. All right. And then my question number two, actually, how about you answer that one? I forgot about question number two.
PN, you're sent the PN will cover anything that is ingestible on that clearance.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the other items on that clearance, that's fine, because it's only the PN will have the FDA product codes and all that for the items that are covered in it. We've sent, even in normal boxes, we send mixed PNs sometimes. That's fine. It only needs to cover the stuff that's actually part of the HTS codes for the FDA.
Okay. And my second question was, how do you find? Is there a database to see what products have PGA regulations? I would never guess that Crayola has PGA, for example.
Yeah, Crayola has PGA for CPCs as a children's thing. There is we actually, I just added this today to our, it's not on the public one, but it's on the one for clients use. It shows, actually, it might be on the public one. It shows you any PGA for the ASINs that you're doing, but you can, if you get the HTS code, you can use, let me remember what you can use, I believe it's Duty Skip. They have an API, or they even just have estimate thing. and it'll let you know PGAs related to that HTS code, so you can see what might be applied.
Thank you.
And by the way, with duty skip, I believe they'll even tell you like what form or something is needed, and it'll say may be required or is required, and pretty much is required is what you're worried about. The may be required is that's just something for you to know. But with major brands, it's not too much of an issue. Like even Crayola, like they won't do it because of the HTS code. Stallion won't do it. But if you were to ship to Crayola, I'm fairly certain like they would not ask you for a lot of information. And even Crayola has CPCs available online if you need them. But that's like an example of something where, because Stallion is the importer of record, they're not taking that liability when they're putting everything together and shipping across the border easily, right? But if you're doing your own stuff, as long as you do your own due diligence, you can ship anything, even with the PGA requirements. You just need to know the risks, or at least maybe separate out the shipments to a PGA one and a non-PGA one, and you can do that. But again, FBM, time is sensitive depending on your handling time, so that's definitely something to look into.
Thanks.
Are there any additional questions for Ali at all? A lot of this stuff, like if these are things that you're not familiar with, I know like a lot of this stuff can be relatively overwhelming. We're thankful to have Ollie as a resource in our server, so you can ping him and he'll get back to you whenever he can if you have questions. And of course, the video is going to be, it's recorded as well, so you can always reference back to anything that we discussed today as well. Any other questions before we wrap up the portion for Amazon at all?
Okay, sounds good. Okay, I'm going to take off. I'm at the office. My wife's gonna kill me. It's like 10:30 here, so I'm gonna head back. Good luck to everyone. One thing I will say is that we're seeing, obviously a lot of businesses are getting affected negatively by all the changes, but to reiterate, use that to your advantage. Know that people are not going to try as hard as you. People are going to give up when they see things like this happen. And when they do that, it creates more opportunity for you. So I see it happen actively, and people are shipping. So you can use that as a, confirmation that, this is still working. People are ordering, people are shipping USA stuff. It's not like every product has not lost its margin forever. That's not how it is. And plus, there's always the little hope that changes will happen soon, and it's not going to stay like this forever.
100%. Ali, it's greatly appreciated. I really appreciate, and I assume everybody else here does as well, you coming out and doing this. It helps clarify a lot of things and gives a lot of people a lot of the information that they're looking for. So it really, really much so. Thank you. Have a good night, Ali. So I want to cover a couple things just for general shipping, D2C specifically through platforms like eBay, etc. But just to again reiterate on what Ollie mentioned, we will probably see a small reduction in some margins for some products. That's kind of par for the course as people sell out, panic, etc. But like as with anything else, when we see even like fee increases on Amazon, I suspect it's going to be the exact same thing with this for cross-border specifically, that the prices that products are being retailed for are going to slowly increase accordingly, because all the margins are going to get passed on to the consumer. That's how it always is. Not every single product that will happen with, because we of course may have some US competition. They might be able to still have the same sourcing costs for a lot of products, maybe that we cannot. But generally speaking, over the coming few months, typically it's anywhere between 3 and 6 month kind of delay. We will see the products that are more impacted, that are already not are on the increase, will most likely increase accordingly. But of course, there will always be additional opportunity, just like Ali mentioned. And like he said, he's seen a lot of people that are shipping a lot of volume into the US even today. And like I mentioned earlier, we're seeing a lot of products that are having a higher and higher margin as time goes on. And I suspect that's only going to increase as competition decreases accordingly. Because again, this process isn't super straightforward and it is a little bit more complicated. And as soon as somebody sees some form of turbulence, a lot of people are inherently lazy or they get overwhelmed and they're just going to give up. And that's going to decrease competition. That's why like margins for like CA to US specifically are already high as it is, because there is additional barriers that are already exist. This is going to create more barriers, but like Ali mentioned, it's going to create even more opportunity because of that. So if you're willing to learn the process and integrate it, it'll probably make cross-border specific businesses for Amazon even more profitable than what they were. A few things that I want to mention specifically when it comes to eBay. eBay has sent out very little notification information about what their process is going to look like. I'm assuming that with their shipping, it's going to be basically baked in to their labels as it is. I don't suspect like our process for eBay for shipping, if you're buying labels directly through eBay, is really going to change a whole lot. What is going to change a lot is going to be buyer behavior, and also if you're utilizing third-party shipping companies like Stallion, ChitChats, etc. One thing that I highly encourage you to do if you are selling on eBay in any capacity, make sure for any products that are manufactured in North America that on your product listings and the product details that you specifically update the country of manufacturer, because chances are with eBay's shipping that's going to matter and that's going to adjust shipping costs accordingly. Another thing that I'd highly recommend is that you include in your description some form of little tidbit, standard template about products being manufactured outside of KUSMA, of how additional tariffs and duties will be applied. If you're shipping directly through eBay, chances are those are tariffs that the customer is going to be responsible for. If you are shipping through third-party platforms, you'll probably have the option of doing DDP, but of course those will increase your cost accordingly if you're doing so, and you won't have to do so, but you just have to consider that if you're not doing that, that your customers are going to get charged more accordingly, and your sales are probably going to get impacted. That's going to more so affect regular everyday consumables. If you are selling products that are more limited, hard to get, I highly doubt it's going to have a large impact, because if people want those products, they're going to buy them regardless. You just have to make sure that you're going to be more competitive on your price compared to those sellers that are located directly in the United States. Because even though that your price may look competitive, we have to tell ourselves and factor in that there are going to be the additional duties, tariffs, etc. that the buyer is going to incur. Some buyers may not factor that in at all, and they might just be pissed when they get the product, but a lot of them will be calculating that in. So you have to make sure that if you're going to make sales from Canada, that you're priced accordingly. One other thing that I'd obviously recommend that we've been discussing a lot over these last couple months is consider doing specifically US fulfillment. So if you are buying stuff that is being shipped from the US or even from other countries in some cases, to store them and ship them from the United States via 3PL, something like Dispatch, like the company that we have a partnership with, just to save those additional expenses, especially if you're buying products specifically in the United States, because then you can ship it directly to their warehouses. You don't have to worry about the duties and tariffs coming over the border. And chances are, if you're selling your products primarily to US customers, it'll make the process smoother, and even paying their additional fee, it'll probably end up saving you. It may not save you specifically money, but it'll produce more sales for yourself. It'll save you money if you do have to incur any duties bringing it over the border, however, of course. And then another thing that I also wanted to mention is a lot of people may not be familiar, but on eBay, I believe it's a setting that is set by default, but it automatically has a setting in your shipping preferences to pass on your shipping discounts to your customer, your eBay discounted shipping rates. So that is something that you may want to consider changing depending on what kind of seller you are. If you're somebody that's selling a lot of higher volume items, more consumables, you probably want to continue to pass on those rates. If you're somebody that's selling a lot of collectibles, hard to find items, you may want to consider removing those rates to account for any additional costs that you may incur if, like, say you are doing DDP as an example, right? Because then what that will do is that will actually charge the buyer the non-discounted rate, and then you will still be given your discounted rates through eBay through your options. And so you can access that through your shipping preferences, and it's under your rates and exclusions, carrier rate settings. So it's this guy here. And you have the option of choosing eBay discounted rates or standard rates without discount. And so that will charge your buyer accordingly. I believe by default, eBay discounted rates is selected for buyers, if I recall correctly. And then I'm also going to talk to Nolan for anybody that has a large amount of volume in Canada to see if it would make sense potentially shipping that inventory in bulk over to dispatch. I don't know how viable that will be and what kind of costs that will incur, but that could help those that have a lot of inventory inside of Canada to get it into the US. It'll just increase your sales volume, obviously. But that's something I'm going to talk with Nolan about and see what that will kind of look like. And then once I have that information, then I'll share that with everybody as well. But yeah, like as it is right now, like Ollie mentioned, we're still kind of waiting on the changes to take effect, and the platforms, eBay specifically, hasn't specifically mentioned what their process is going to look like and what kind of changes we're going to see. We know, obviously, if everything is revoked, and I'm still kind of hopeful that things are going to be reversed as we get closer to the date, because it was last time, and I don't think the US has the capacity to maintain all the additional labor that they're going to need for these processes. That is going to end up getting revoked. I've seen some things about some places taking the current administration to court over these retaliatory tariffs and whatnot as well. So we don't really know for sure if these things are going to be put into place, but we should prepare accordingly like they're going to be, because if they are, we want to make sure that we're ready. That's the main things that I wanted to cover for eBay. I think that's all that I have for my notes here. One thing, I was talking with Inca a little bit earlier. He was mentioning that he's looking specifically to take advantage more so for products specifically being sold within Canada. And that's obviously something that we should look at as well if we have the option and we're sourcing products that are being sold to Canadian buyers, because there obviously are Canadian buyers on eBay. It's just that we have a much larger market for the US. But if I know he's looking for a way, and it'd be interesting to see if anybody else finds good ways to, because we can filter out products on eBay on sold listings to see what's actually being sold to Canadian buyers. And you can look through, not any efficient ways that I'm seeing so far, but you can look through what a lot of Canadian buyers are purchasing, and then that can help you do sourcing specifically for eBay for Canadian purchases. So that's something that we can look at as well to help increase our domestic sales, especially if this is something like if you're relying on eBay for a substantial part of your income, or if you're trying to build an eBay business. That is something that I would highly recommend that you consider. But it all depends, again, what kind of business you're running, on how you're going to adjust and what kind of things you're going to implement accordingly in your business. But yeah, that's everything that I wanted to cover specifically for eBay. Anybody have any other additional questions, comments, concerns about anything at all? Everybody's quiet today. But yeah, I do fully expect that if you are shipping from Canada and you are primarily selling to US buyers and you are primarily selling stuff that is not KUSMA manufactured, you should fully expect eBay sales to take a dip because of that. But then I do fully expect that in the coming months, assuming things are not revoked, as buyer behavior gets adjusted to these new norms, that sales volume will kind of most likely pick back up to what it was prior. You just may have to, again, consider price competitiveness much more than what you did previously. But I will probably expect US buyers specifically to be going more heavily specifically for US products if they are available, and then their buying behavior to just adjust back to what it was prior once the dust settles, probably about like 6 months in. That's kind of what we've seen when eBay started implementing like VAT in Europe. If you had a lot of European buyers back then, that was kind of the behavior that we saw, and then they kind of just adjusted and adapted, and then we saw the same amount of European buyers more or less come back to the platform buying from Canadian sellers as well. So yeah, that's everything that I wanted to cover. Before we wrap it up, anybody else have any questions, comments, anything? Let me know, or forever hold your peace. Maybe, maybe not. Everybody's silent. Cool. Well, then I am oh, what do we got? What's up, Rob?
No, just everybody's stressed out about this tariff thing, to be honest.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
And
it's a big thing. Like, if you sell a lot into the U.S., it can be stressful because it's a big change. But like a lot of people I've seen are panicking. They think that the sky is falling. It's not if you're willing to adapt and adjust. Like, it is obviously something that we have to learn. We have to adjust, especially if you do a lot of business in the U.S. But it's not something that's going to end your business if you're resilient.
yeah, especially for the big buyers, I think, because recently there was this thing on Twitter where they were like, person doing OA, their margins, if they have 20% margin, they're lying. And I was like, you guys are not checking the persons that are doing OA from Canada to the US.
100%, because margins for Canada to U.S. tend to be quite a bit higher than that. But that's a different arbitrage opportunity that a lot of people don't have access to or they're unaware of, right?
Yeah, that's true. But AB got his thing down, so he's good.
I mean, my pain point at that point was like I was buying a lot of inventory, and it wasn't just getting across the border. So I moved to formal entries. Started with like all these U.S. Canadian products, which were basically crossing for free. But that's like it was a blessing in disguise. And then by the all this thing happened, I was pretty much ready for the shipments to be done in a like on PEPs or formal. But yeah, I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not something that's very difficult. Obviously, it's when you start off, you might be a lot more hesitant about things of what you can send over and what you cannot. The brokers, again, one might think that they are an expert in their field, but a lot of products, they even like the brokers are not aware of what can be sent across the border, what cannot be sent. So you just need to push through, and you find your way out. There are certain products that I cannot send over anymore, so I just pulled out of them. But then obviously there are, as Jordan said, there are a lot of other products in the market that you can obviously buy and sell. Like I was like when Jordan was saying about all this. The margins increasing and everything. So I was just going through my seller board report, and I just saw that my margins compared to like 6 months back, my average ROI, gross ROI was around 56%. Right now it's 75%. So that's crazy. I mean, even after paying duties and everything, I'm making more money, if not the same, right? So it's not the end of the world. Like everyone is gonna find their own path.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's a nice increase, though.
That's a very healthy increase.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've got like some gems that I might not be able to replan, but yeah, I'll enjoy as much as long as it's last.
Yeah, and like as like if we look at the Amazon market specifically, because like everybody's always concerned that like Amazon squeezes sellers, margins are tightening, etc., etc. And like as a whole, it may appear like that on the surface, and obviously Amazon always gets harder over time. And like I've said for years, I'm pretty sure they implement those systems by default. They intentionally make it harder by default because they're intentionally wanting to weed out the people that are not willing to take a business seriously. But for those that do, like if we see fee increases year after year, that's fine. The prices adjust accordingly. And for those ASINs that don't and that no longer make sense, get rid of them, find new ones. There's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of new products that are being added on both marketplaces every single year, and there's consistently more and more opportunity. So until if and when Amazon completely eliminates third-party sellers, which I highly doubt that they ever will, there's always going to be opportunity there, and no matter what business model that you're doing.
True. And also, like, I think there was a discussion going on. Like, Mizi was saying some, like, almost a couple of weeks back or a month back regarding the auto ungating happening in US again. It's just because Amazon just realized they cannot have everything in stock, and they wanted like 3P sellers to come back in stock, and that's when they started opening up brands again. Like, practically, I believe like 90% of the applications I apply to, they automatically get ungated, and a lot of those brands were hard gated for me when this whole US hard gating thing started.
Yeah, and like we don't know their actual reasoning behind why they did that. It could have been because they're wanting to weed out the platform of sellers. It could be because they're having internal issues. It could be because they can't handle the inventory. Whatever the case may be, unfortunately, they don't really tell us. It could be a wide variety of things. But we adapt and overcome, and there's still plenty and plenty of opportunity available and lots of margin to be made if you adjust. If you do the same old shit that you've been doing and you don't adapt and change, yeah, your business is going to die, but you probably shouldn't have been in business to begin with anyway if that's the kind of person that you are.
True. Like I believe yeah, a couple of weeks back, a big weeks back, I was talking to Ollie regarding like I was like, man, this gatings and everything are making my business go dry. So I'm thinking of shutting down my warehouse, and I'll probably transfer my business to you. But the last couple of weeks has been so awesome when I'm buying inventory like crazy. Like I've got a buy list of 20K and I don't have money to spend right now. So I just messaged Ali. I was like, man, you know what? I'm just deferring my plans for now.
Yeah, and like with any business, we're going to go through periods of uncertainty and stress. That's par for the course. Like if you have a business that you don't ever have any challenges, chances are it's probably not a very profitable business. And so it's just a matter of how you adapt for it. And yeah, like I've in a lot of the businesses that I have and that I have had, I've had periods where it's like I'm stressed to the max and I'm literally like just thinking about it is making me throw up because like I don't know how I'm going to pay my fucking bills and pay the people that I have employed. But if you sit down and think it through and face it instead of just trying to run away from it, chances are you will come out better on the other end.